All right, let's jump right in. You know the old playbook for getting rich, right? Get a good job, work your butt off, save every penny. Well, that playbook, it's kind of being thrown out the window. So today, we're going to dig into the new rules of making money and what that actually means for your financial future in this, crazy, fast-changing world. We've all been told our whole lives that money doesn't grow on trees, right? Well, Mark Tilbury says that's the biggest lie we're told. He argues that saying is basically designed to keep us on that same old traditional path. But what if it's not true? The real secret, according to him, is to find ways to make money that aren't tied to you working 24/7. It's about building assets, actual things that make you money, instead of just trading your time for a paycheck.
And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. $94,000. That's how much one creator, Demi Zhuang, pulled in just 3 months. So how'd she do it? Was it some crazy high-paying job? Nope. It was from 4 different income streams she built up over time. It's a perfect real-world example of what can happen when you stop playing by the old rules and start playing by the new ones.
So that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? If the old way is fading out and you've got people like Demi getting these insane results with a new approach, then what are the new rules for building wealth today? Let's get into it and break down the modern playbook. All right, so let's start with the what. What are the actual strategies people are using right now to make this happen? And I want to be super clear here. We're not talking about get-rich-quick schemes. These are real, tangible ways people are generating income in today's economy. So check this out. Mark Tilbury breaks down a few strategies here, and there's something really important I want you to notice. Look at that money cost column. For automating a side hustle, creating online content, affiliate marketing, they're all a 1 out of 5. A 1. So the real investment here isn't your wallet, it's your time. This completely flips that old saying on its head. You need money to make money. Turns out today, your time and your skills can be way more valuable than cash. And this is where things get really interesting, because technology, specifically AI, is an absolute game changer here. Entrepreneur Ayman Godzi has this concept he calls digital products 2.0, and the big idea is pretty simple. You don't have to be the world's leading expert on a topic anymore to create something valuable. Why not? Because AI can pretty much be that expert for you. It just smashes the barrier to entry. So how does it actually work? Well, it breaks down into a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you identify a niche, and I mean a specific problem for a specific group. So don't just think fitness, think something like how to fix knee pain for marathon runners who are over 50. See the difference? Step 2, you use AI to gather up all the information out there. You let it do the hard work of researching and synthesizing everything. And finally, step 3, you package all that amazing information into a digital product, an ebook, a course, you name it. Basically, you come up with the focused idea and AI does the heavy lifting. Okay, so we've looked at some of the tactics, but honestly, those strategies, they're only half the battle. The real transformation happens right here, in your mindset. I mean, knowing a few tricks is great, but adopting a whole new philosophy, that's what really separates the old way of thinking from the new. And at the heart of this new mindset is a concept from the late, great Bob Proctor. He called it MSI, or multiple sources of income. It's a really simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. It's all about not putting all your eggs in one basket. So instead of just depending on that one paycheck from your 9 to 5, you focus on building several different independent streams of revenue. And Proctor really laid out the difference here, and it gets right to the core of it all. On one hand, you have what he called Strategy M1, trading your time for money. This is what 96% of people do. And what's the big problem with that? Well, there are only so many hours in a day, right? You eventually hit a wall. But then there's Strategy M3, building multiple sources of income. Only 1% of people do this. And this is all about creating systems that make money for you, even when you're not physically working. So what happens when you make that mental switch? Well, according to Bob Proctor's work, the result is just massive. Get this. That tiny 1% of the population using the M3 strategy, they end up earning 96% of all the money. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a wild statistic, and it just goes to show you how powerful building systems is compared to just trading your hours for dollars. Okay. So all these strategies for individuals are great, but they naturally lead to some much bigger questions, right? They plug right into this huge, and let's be honest, pretty intense debate about wealth and inequality and what kind of society we actually want to build. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture, exploring 2 very different viewpoints from our sources. So, one argument you'll hear, which comes from a PragerU source, is that a certain amount of wealth inequality in a free market can actually be a good thing. The thinking goes like this. The rich essentially act as test buyers for new technologies. Think about it. They were the ones who bought those first giant $4,000 cell phones or those computers that cost $1 million. Their spending, their early adoption is what funded all the R&D that, over time, made those same technologies affordable and available to literally everyone.
Now, on the flip side, there is a totally different perspective, explained in a source from Kurzgesagt. This one focuses not on the top of the pyramid, but on the bottom. The idea here is something called Universal Basic Income, or UBI. The goal would be to create a financial safety net for every single person. By giving everyone enough money to cover their basic needs, the argument is that you could wipe out poverty and help people escape what they call poverty traps. You know those awful situations where if someone takes a low-wage job, they lose their benefits, and they actually end up worse off financially? UBI aims to fix that. It's about shifting the focus from just earning enough to survive to empowering people to earn enough to actually improve their lives.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground here, haven't we? We've gone from specific, actionable strategies using AI to those really fundamental shifts in your mindset, and even zoomed out to the big societal debates around all of this. So after all that, the most important question is, what's your next move? What does this all mean for your financial future? Because at the end of the day, these new rules, they aren't just about some cool new tech or a new business model. They're about a completely new way of thinking about money. It's about seeing your time not just as something you sell for a wage, but as your most valuable asset, something you invest to create things that earn for you. So as the whole world of work and wealth keeps changing around us, the real question isn't just what are the new rules? It's how are you going to play the game?